And we are live. Hello. Okay, everybody, welcome back to the stage. I'm here with Ryan Garry from Unlimited Motion, based in Liverpool, and Ryan is doing a world first experiment, probably because he's puppeteering a metahuman, which we know is just come out. So I am literally going to hand this over to Ryan, and he's going to be 10 or 15 minutes of chatting, and I might come in on the back of it to ask him some questions. So if you have any questions, throw it into the chat. And I'm just trying to keep us on time because I know it's getting late and we've got one more session after Ryan. But Ryan, over to you, pal. See you soon.
Okay, cool. All right. So yeah, good to be presenting here. I'm Ryan Garry, as Mark mentioned, and I do, of course, a lot of motion capture. And what I've done today, with the release of the metahumans, and with the early access rather of the metahumans, and the release of the metahumans like project file, what I thought would be best to do, because they're so well rigged, the whole thing is actually quite well rigged, but especially the face, I thought I'd just live drive it basically, and also explain a bit about the technology, a bit about where I see the technology going, a bit about where it is now, as well as where it's going into the future, basically. So yeah, motion capture, obviously, as you heard from Anya, motion capture has been, I'll go a bit more in depth about it, but it's kind of leapt into the consciousness from Gollum and Lord of the Rings and the Star Wars prequels, that kind of thing. And that was obviously a very protracted process. It took a lot of processing power and it took a lot of time to get it right and to apply to an avatar. And of course, it was very expensive. Over the years, it's obviously being used more and more, and being used still at the high end in films like, Star Wars, Planet of the Apes, that kind of thing. But what I think is really interesting is how it is now accessible to everyone in different shapes and forms. And that includes things like Kinect, but also things like Xsense, Rococo, Perception Neuron, which are a much more affordable way of doing it, which wouldn't have been available, even 5 or 10 years ago. But also what I think is very interesting is because the pipeline for those films, or the pipeline still for those films, is offline. You take the data on set, you take it back to the studio, and then you process it, put it onto the creature, render it, taking weeks and months to get a usable result. The way things are going now, as probably most of you here will be aware of, is going into real time, not only in real time motion capture, but also real time virtual production, real time cameras. Everything is pushing into real time. As the processing power gets more and more, things can be like that. Essentially, you can track a camera in real time. And in fact, I have, whilst I can't demonstrate it, I have one of these camera tracking modules, and that can track a camera in real time in up to 200 FPS. So everything's moving towards real time. And this character that I'm demoing now is running on a laptop because I couldn't figure out how to make the audio work with my desktop. But I think that's a testament to how powerful and accessible even the technology is. The fact that I can run this entire thing, as well as the project, I'm running the mocap suit, as well as this Unreal project. The detail on it is remarkable, especially at this kind of level of detail on a laptop. That to me is insane, really. And as you can see from the face and from the lips especially, the lip sync isn't perfect, but the wrinkle detail is incredible. And what I think is really important for this is not that the results are necessarily 100% perfect right off the bat, but I think what's really useful and what's really important for the creative process really is something that Gabe Newell said, the president of Valve Software, was that iteration is what improves it. Iterating quicker and quicker and faster and faster. So with the real-time thing, you won't necessarily get it 100% correct right off the bat, but by the fact that it's real-time and by the fact that you can change, you can change lighting, you can change, position of stuff, you can iterate on all that on all those factors basically, and end up with a much better final result. For some reason the body's messed up there. I'll reactivate that in a minute. But anyway, you can achieve a much better final result because you can iterate on things much faster, which I think is the main advantage basically of real-time technology, and the fact that it can run on very low cost and really low power hardware is incredible to me. Whereas something like Maya, obviously, to render a scene like this would take minutes per frame. So the development of that kind of technology is incredible to me. Yeah. Uncanny Valley once the body stops working. I'll try and get that fixed actually.
Hey mate, I thought I'd jump in while you sort of reset the puppet or whatever it is that you need to do, and I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions just to keep us on track and bring us on in time. Vinobi said, "What's the laptop spec?" So I know you said to me behind the scenes it was a £700 laptop, so that can't be super expensive. So what you're running? What's the graphics card? What's the tech specs?
Yeah, it's a what is it? I think it's an i5 8300H with a GTX 1060. So it's a decent kind of spec gaming graphics card. But I think at that price, it's pretty incredible, to be honest. The fact that you can render that kind of stuff in real time. Yeah.
Ben Neal says, "What else is being used?" So talk us through, what's everything being plugged into this laptop. So this thing's probably on the edge, but you've got a suit on, you've got facial tracking. You're also broadcasting on Hopin, so you've got internet coming in and out as well. So
yeah, pretty much. I'd have to recalibrate that suit to make it work, but yeah. So I've got OBS running for the actual. For this video display, basically, I've got Unreal. I've got an Unreal window here. I've got a kind of Wi-Fi router kind of thing that the suit connects to. That's it really. And also the iPhone. Basically, what I've got for this and what a lot of VTubers do is have an iPhone in a case suspended next to them, basically, because the range on it is actually quite far. With this, I'm sitting quite a few, maybe 2 feet away. So they just have it suspended in front of them, basically, because obviously the way you usually do motion capture is by having a head-mounted camera.
Yeah.
So you have a helmet on you. Yeah. But again, this is one thing I think is really cool with the way that it's democratizing access to it, is that you don't need that helmet to keep it in front of you. You can literally just have that phone mounted somewhere near you, and that can track your face, basically, which is a very discreet way of doing it. And I think what everyone was saying before about the Kinect kind of methodology of doing motion capture, at the minute I'm having to wear this suit. This suit is built from kind of wireless trackers, so it's not very heavy or hot or anything. But I think the future will be obviously using a camera like I have this iPhone camera here, having that pointing at you, and that will be able to determine how you're moving. And there are already a load of AI-based applications in development. They're not 100% right now, but they're in development to basically do that. You know what I mean? You set a single camera, even a smartphone camera, pointing at you, and it via AI creates your movement. I'm not sure whether they can do it live yet. I think there are some that can, but the quality isn't 100%.
Yeah, well, Anya sort of alluded to some of the programs and stuff that she experimented with. So yeah, it's great. And I'm gonna have to wrap this up in a minute, but just to touch upon what you mentioned there about not having things hanging off your head and wearing helmets and having to have dots everywhere. What we've seen very rapidly and coming down to the consumer level at a low price point is that it's freeing the actors up to actually perform and create performances for these marionettes, for these avatars, which are a distance from ourselves. So we're seeing huge leaps.
Yeah, I think the method that was used on Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, was probably one of the best that I think ILM And a similar kind of method was used on The Irishman, where they didn't have any, because Scorsese didn't want any hardware on the actors, so they developed this dual camera system that essentially looked at the actors as they were performing. And similarly on Dead Man's Chest, they had witness cams looking at the actors so that they could basically act without being encumbered by an actual suit. They could just walk around. And I think that's, probably a better method than
that's where
nowadays.
If we want to get to the soul of a character and we want to get to the heart of a character, we need to get rid of the tech away from the actor. And that's for a whole other conversation. But Ryan, I'm going to have to wrap it up here because I'm going to need to get Rob and the crew on for the last session. But thank you, my friend. It's great watching your journey. And there's a few things in the chat, so please check that out. People wanting to know what tech specs and some stuff like that. So make sure you jump in there and chat to them. But Ryan, thank you very much, my friend.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Okay, guys, I'm just going to go and get the next panel, and we are on time now. And so, yeah, it's going to be a few minutes while we switch over and get the next panel in. But it's going to be Rob Scott from VR Manchester and BBC. He's going to be with Tina, who's a world creator in Horizon. Lewis Hackett, who has created the Free Party VR space, which you can download on the front page here and go and experience. And also, hopefully, again, if the tech works, VR Girl, world exclusive, coming at you. All right, then we'll see you after the break. Yeah, that'll work. Let's do that.